Niharika, and welcome to the Abouther show. This is a show about trailblazing women, women who've had dreams, aspirations, ambitions, goals, and have worked hard to achieve them. So, over here, we give them a platform to talk about the journey of their lives, the ups and downs, challenges that they may have faced along the way. And then we also want to inspire the women who are listening in, women who have dreams, ambitions, and aspirations, but somehow have not been able to get to them. So we want them to get out of whatever is holding them back and work towards their goals. And eventually, we want to build a community of women who are there to help, support, and empower each other. So, a very, very warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
Okay, so to set the ball rolling, just tell us a little bit about your early life, your childhood, also, and about what you currently do.
Okay, so I studied in a boarding school. It's called the Lawrence School Seminar. It, yeah, it's where my dad and granddad study, so I was sent there as well. I had a lot of fun. And
Mm-hmm.
then I did my undergrad. I majored in economics, psychology, and sociology from Christ University. Did my MSc from Manchester Business School. Had my first job in Zomato, second job in Genpact.
Mm-hmm.
And today it's completely different from the jobs that I was doing because I am a full-time solopreneur, which what essentially that means is that I run a one-person business. So
Okay.
I've created multiple sources, which is I sell digital products, I conduct a code-based course, which is actually I think we've had 10 cohorts so far.
Okay.
So I've taught about over 150 people here from maybe 30 different countries.
Wow.
And I have pre-recorded courses. I also write on LinkedIn because like I'm a Gemini and I have a lot to talk about all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what I do, but I'm still figuring it out. Like I still keep experimenting with new ideas.
Life is actually all about it. You never reach a point where you think you've kind of done it all. When you feel that, I think that's just a cue for something different, something bigger, better happening for you. So, do you think the way you were raised, or the way your parents were when you were a child, did that have any bearing on you as the way you've turned out now, your personality, or whatever you're doing?
So my parents, they did not really pressurize me into like doing something in particular. One
Okay.
thing they wanted me is to like play some sports because I was a really heavy kid and I obviously did not play any sports because I just turned heavier, and every time I'd go back to school, I got a bigger skirt.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but apart from that, like even when I chose my subjects, I didn't really consult them. I wanted to be a pilot for a really long time, but then
Okay.
trigonometry came in 10th grade
Mm-hmm.
and I could not do that. So that's why I didn't become a pilot. And but that's all I wanted to do for the longest time. So
Okay.
since then, the journey just became about figuring it out. My parents are also separated, so it was like rather turbulent growing up. But yeah, I think like being an only child, you spend a lot of time with yourself. So I think that has shaped my personality more
Mm-hmm.
because I went to a boarding at 12.
Hmm. Okay. Mhm. So, after completing your education, you started working in the corporate world, and then, of course, now you're on your own. So, I'm sure you must have faced some challenges along the way. So, if you could elaborate on those and also tell us if some of those challenges were because of your gender.
So I would say obviously the first challenge was actually with my first job, which is that I got laid off.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up as a fat kid, as like the tallest person, I've been 5'9" since I was 15 or 16 years old.
Okay.
So tall and heavy and a hoarse voice, like all of this like puts you subject to bullying very drastically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not exactly something that makes you really confident, nor was I exemplary in studies. I was just above average.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there was this inner conflict that was already there, and being laid off from my very first job just added to the low on self-esteem bit.
Mm-hmm.
So this one wasn't specific, but I would say in the game that I'm playing right now,
Yeah.
I'm not really seeing a lot of women, especially Indian women, doing anything like this. I think we really limit ourselves. Most
Hmm.
of the people I'm talking to, um, there is very little or no belief in investing in yourself. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, rather buy something for yourself instead of actually investing in education.
Hmm.
And there's also this self-doubt that how can I do this? how can I get out of this? Why would anyone pay me?
Yeah.
So there's definitely, I would say, this is what I encounter with, especially in the Indian subcontinent, when I talk to women in the West, and most of these are women much older than me. Most of them have kids. Most of my students are actually parents. I would say there's a lot more confidence there. So I don't know what is the difference, but people in the West are definitely more confident, especially women.
Mm.
Women here are doubting themselves way too much, but I've also been there. I just think it's how the society molds you, right? Like you're constantly in a defensive mode.
Yes, yes, yes. See, here, I think, seeing women being out there. So, of course, education and all now, of course, everybody accepts that. But seeing so many women doing so many things, and, as far as freedom, liberty, all these things are concerned, I think the Indian society still has a long way to go. People are not as accepting of ambitious women, assertive, aggressive women as the Western world is. So, perhaps that is the reason why there is lack of confidence. Don't you
Lack
think?
of confidence also, it comes from home, right? I still have friends who belong to maybe extremely wealthy societies and they're not allowed to work.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
just work, simple work. They're just either you work from home or you don't work at all. Like it's strictly not allowed.
Yeah,
And the fact that these things still exist, the reason is simple, right? It's to clip your wings, because the moment you're independent, you're not going to take crap. But
absolutely.
when you're not working, you're dependent on every single penny, and then the other person just has an upper hand. So it's just sad that it's not just in the uneducated people. I would say they are, in fact, more forward in many ways,
Yeah, yeah,
but it's really educated, some extremely wealthy ones, which are just putting their girls in a golden cage, because that's a reality for many of my friends.
that is true. And in fact, it's worse because in case of the ones who are not so fortunate, ones who don't have so much money, they have economic pressures and they are not supposedly that enlightened, that
Yeah,
knowledgeable, educated. But this is supposed to be the educated and the advanced section of society. So it actually makes it worse that knowing this, you still want to do the same thing. So yeah, it is.
exactly.
Yeah. So tell me, when you were growing up, did you have anyone who you considered as a role model or a mentor who kind of, influenced your thought process, or, you wanted to be like them?
Actually, no one, because I really lived in a shell.
Okay.
I didn't really talk so much to people. I didn't think this far. I also had this constant negative chatter in my head, which actually I worked on it maybe during the pandemic. So fairly recently, there was always an inner chatter which said that I'm not good enough.
Hmm.
Because compared to people around me, I wasn't, like, whether it was good looking enough, good in studies enough, in sports enough, in anything.
Hmm.
So I just think, and I see that in many other people today, like when you keep telling yourself that, you do become that as well.
Yeah.
So I would say I never thought that much, but there was definitely one thing that I really wanted to lead a life, which was like my grandfather's, because
Okay.
I had seen him come from nothing and then like build so much so that his future generation could be stable and could be happy. And he also like taught me basic financial principles, like something as simple as don't take a loan, like don't buy things for for what you don't have the money for,
Hmm. Hmm.
and always invest, always save. That's why like I've been investing since I was 21,
Wow.
and I've been like saving, like, and saving like maybe also not in a good way, because I remember I went for when I was 12, I went to the US and it was Easter, and my
Hmm.
uncle gave me $30 and I spent nine. And I regretted it so much that why did I have to save that? I should have just spurred it. But I would say that's me even today.
So yeah,
So, but yeah, I think that's he's still like, even though he's not there anymore, he's still my leading light when I think of the way that I want to live a life. Because even when he passed away, like people just said so many good things. And I thought, his was the first cremation I saw, and it really shook me. And I
Hmm.
think it was, in a way, it was a lot of my spiritual awakening, because I thought you can be on earth for 75 years, but
Hmm.
you will go completely empty and you'll just leave one day. There will
Yeah,
be no existence. And if people are still going to talk about you like this, then what a better way to lead a life.
I agree. I completely agree. Yes. When people say these things after you've gone, of course, you are no longer there and they're not saying those things to impress you, because even they know you're not there.
Yeah.
But yes, for those of us who are left behind, it just tells you what a great life the person must have led.
Yeah, and it also came from the impact he made for others, that
Yeah.
whether it was like helping them with work or helping somebody get a job. I mean, my grandfather was in the army, followed by CRPF, but he helped people in whatever way he could, which is what people remembered him for.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. So tell me, well, anyone, whether it's young boy or a young girl, wants to get into entrepreneurship and be on their own. So quickly, could you share 3 tips on what it takes to tick or to be a successful entrepreneur?
The first I would say is keep experimenting. My course was born out of a tweet, which was out there out of boredom. But if
Mm,
I never did that, nothing would have happened. Keep experimenting, because the worst thing is that people will laugh at you. But
mm,
again, that's what you think. Nobody's laughing at you. People are too busy thinking about
yes,
themselves. Like,
I
people are narcissistic. Nobody cares. The second thing would be that the easiest way to get somewhere is learn it from somebody who's been there and done that,
mm,
instead of reading things that no longer relate to today's dynamic world.
yeah,
Just learn from people who've been there and done that, because now people are putting out all their lessons on social media, like even if it's through mediums like podcasts, there are actually people you're interviewing and they're putting out their journey. So if somebody wants to like do what I'm doing, they'll kind of already get their bits and pieces in this conversation.
yes,
And the third would be that work on in the space that's between your ears. Your mind controls every single thing. If you're going to tell yourself that you're not going to be able to do it, you won't.
yeah,
And what's helped me is being just putting things into action, but also being really optimistic, even when things don't work out.
yeah.
It just helps me stay happier.
Great, great. So wonderful tips, actually, because sometimes you just need to hear another person maybe say the same thing that you're thinking, but you need that, that okay, that fine, what I'm thinking is right. Somebody else is also saying the
Yeah.
same. Okay. So of course you just told me that you recently got married, and so there is,
Yeah.
another dimension to your life. So you do
Yeah.
know that there is, I mean, especially if women are working, so there is a professional side and there is a personal side.
Yeah.
And balancing the two is always like, you're like a trapeze artist trying to do various things. But
Yeah.
considering that society has more expectations from women and men, how do you think
Yeah.
as a woman, one should balance, or for that matter, how do you balance?
It's really difficult. Like on some days, I just want to quit everything and be a housewife, but then being a housewife is way more harder than the work that I do. So then I kind of come back to doing my work.
Uh-huh.
Because this one time, our house help ran away and I had to do everything. And my work didn't start when I sat on the desk. It started the moment I opened my eyes. And that's when I realized that all these years as a kid, when my mom would be like, "You're spoiling my afternoon sleep, let me sleep." That sleep is important because you're working since the time you woke up. Like you're
Yeah.
always on the go. It's extremely difficult. I don't think I'm great at balancing it because I really don't think I do a good job of like being the house person.
Hmm.
And if I can be honest, I kind of don't even want to. I just don't get it. Why is this expected out of me? And I'm still in that phase where I'm finding it, and this is something I was talking to you about, that I find it really hard to be a woman. Like it's just so difficult because everything is on you and you have to handle everything, and to do that with like building a business is extremely hard. So I don't think I'm the best person to say like what balances it, because I am still in the journey of figuring it out. But what's really helped is saying no, that no, I just like I don't cook. I cannot cook. If I'm working out, I'm doing all these things, I just cannot cook.
Hmm.
And saying no. And another thing that's helped me is to I have this compulsion of cleanliness and organizing. Like I want everything to be in a certain way. But
Hmm.
now I'm just like beginning to let it loose, that if I can complete a project today evening and the clothes are folded, it's okay. The world will not turn upside down if I don't set them right now.
Yeah.
And it's not the end of the world. So I think I'm trying not to put self-induced pressure. Luckily, like my husband's really chill, so he
Hmm.
doesn't expect a lot. But even if like the society does, I kind of haven't ever been a society pleaser. I don't care if people come and say that the daughter-in-law doesn't give the household bahu who's not making tea and all, I really don't care about what people say.
One shouldn't. And yes, learning to say no, I think, is the biggest
Yeah.
learning, is the biggest lesson for a lot of people, because trying to be that, Miss Goody Two Shoes, or trying to be a people pleaser, can never get you anywhere.
And I
You
feel the
know,
society has thrived, like at least Indian society has thrived on making women feel that they're under somebody's foot, that
yeah,
they're going to do everything told to them. Come with me here, get ready, do this, do that. I mean, why?
yeah,
And it's just unfair, right? And especially now that we are working people, the stress that a man has is the same stress a woman has.
of
So
course.
why are, and I may be working 3, 4 hours a day, but there are people who work 10 hours a day and they're expected to decide everything else for the house. I feel like some responsibilities need to be divided.
Yes,
It becomes a
absolutely.
lot better when your partner is supportive, but I think there's again still a long way to go. It still feels a lot of things really feel unfair still.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's that, but I'm just glad I have a supportive partner who's kind of dealing with me and my nose and my lack of, because he's a pleaser, he's a people's person, he's a pleaser, and I'm the opposite of that.
Hmm.
So yeah, we're figuring it out.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure you will be able to, and very well. So, of course, life has its ups and downs and setbacks, and like not every day is the same. So, when you have a bad day, you're not feeling too bright. So, how do you stay the course, or how do you stay motivated and, resilient, so to say?
Right. So one thing, if it's really bad, I do cry. Like I cry easily, and
Okay.
I don't have any shame about it. Like if I cry, I cry. I kind of cry if I watch any sad movie. So I do that. I also have a pretty extensive meditation routine, which has like two different types of breathing exercises, chanting and meditation. So
Mm.
chances are that if I'm having a bad day, that will lessen it a
Yeah.
bit because it just centers you.
Mm.
But how do I stay resilient is I kind of just put that energy on work, that I'll just work and it's fine. Like I will get my reward here if I'm having a bad day. But on some days I don't want to do that and I just waste time.
Mm.
It's just normal to kind of not want to do anything. Again, like there's so much of pressure that we have to do it. We
Yeah.
have to do something every single day. And I think, a lot of that is self-induced pressure. Like society is one thing, but I think we as women pressurize ourselves so much that we always need to be at the top of our game. So I try to see, like, if it's self-induced pressure, I try to put it down.
Mm.
I'm actually working with a coach to work on this because I've realized that I put way too much pressure on myself. So take help if it's required is also one thing.
Yeah. So, actually, what happens is, what I have realized is that along the way, we all devise our ways of dealing with stress, of dealing with setbacks, because they are as normal as anything else in life. It's just that,
Yeah,
yes, some days you just feel that it's okay. That I think is very
yeah,
important. You're not feeling good, or you don't want to work, you want to take a day off, it's okay. Nothing is,
yeah.
heavens are not going to fall. And I always say, if heavens are going to fall, then they will fall anyways, whether I work or I don't. So it's okay. So I think that is
Also,
important.
another thing is, I believe a lot in impermanence. When
Mm.
good things happen to me, I'm a bit indifferent about it, though I think I should be more celebrative. Like, I think I should treat myself to a blueberry cheesecake or a lemon tart more often because I love it, but I
Okay.
don't because I'm really health conscious.
Uh-huh.
But I think so it helps me stay grounded if good things happen. But even when something bad happens, I'm just like, this is also impermanent. Like, just like the good things in life are impermanent, this is also impermanent and it's okay, it'll pass.
That is a balanced view, because it is true. Everything has to pass, whether it is good or bad. So,
Yeah,
when I mean, uphill, downhill, it's all part of life. Okay.
right.
So, Niharika, young girls, 18, 19-year-olds who are at the moment on the threshold of their personal and professional lives, just trying to figure out what we should be doing, or what are certain things that we should keep in mind going forward. Anything you would like to tell them, any piece of advice?
Already start going inwards. Right
Okay.
now is a time when everything is so fun outside because there are so many fun parties to go to that
Yeah.
you've never been. So many things to try, so many different cocktails that you're not allowed to have at home that you can have outside. There's so much of exposure. take out 10 minutes every day to go inwards, whatever it may mean to you. Like it may mean journaling, it may mean meditation.
Yeah,
Because I started practicing when I was 18, and I think 7, 8 years later, those things helped me.
great.
Because whenever people ask me more like questions like how do you get this idea, that idea, my answer to most things is it just comes inside. It's from inside. I'm looking inside. I found my ikigai because I'm looking inside. Start building that habit, because when you get out of college, I mean, the society is going to find a way to crush you, and especially if you're a girl, even more especially if you're in India, already start looking inwards. It's going to give you a ground beneath your feet that you do not think exists.
Hmm. Okay. So how and where would you put financial, emotional independence into this scheme of things?
Financial independence is number one. I don't even think it's about the money. I think it's about the dynamics,
Yeah.
because it's not about you're making X amount of money, but it just, I think people start respecting you more. I have seen this even with my journey when I was a corporate employee, making money versus like me being much better off now with all my investments that I have in place for my retirement for like 30 years later.
Hmm.
People look at you very differently, and people just have a lot of respect for you. For what? Because you kind of made it,
Yeah.
and because you can stand up on your own feet and you don't need a man to support you
Yeah.
or like buy you things. And honestly, like for girls, it's more fun to buy your own Gucci than having somebody else buy you one. It's just
I
more
agree.
fun, because with your money, what happens is you can spend it and you don't feel guilty. But with somebody else's money, you're going to think that, oh, like it's hard earned money, I can't waste it. Yours, you can waste if you want. So financial independence should be the number one goal. Don't be in a hurry. Like I would say, make money a consequence of good work. Don't make it a goal. If you work, it's like that line from Three Idiots, that be so good that success and money comes to you instead of chasing money, because then it's not going to come to you. Because who in the world is not chasing money? Everyone is.
Everyone is.
And obviously, the emotional bit, the emotional regulation or emotional intelligence, I would say that again stems from looking inwards. A lot of things will get regulated with that level of awareness.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, essentially, yes, like you said, it is, that sense of pride and that high that you get when you are able to buy things for yourself or do anything for
Yeah.
yourself and you don't have to ask somebody for money. I think a huge, that's a very big reason why, it's not about
Yeah.
money, it's about that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, the first 1 year that I like started my business, I think I went crazy spending. I never cared if like how much it costs, and just that feeling of
Yeah.
buying without checking the bank balance, without bothering about your credit card bill, it just felt so insane. But
I-
then later on, I started investing a higher amount, so I stopped spending money that way.
yeah, but fine, that's again a choice that you can make.
Yeah, but I'm glad I did it. Like it was a lot of fun.
Hmm. So tell me, Niharika, of course, women are forging ahead in different fields, making a name for themselves and
Yeah.
all of that. But what do you think there are still, there are some biases or barriers that still exist which make it difficult for women in
I
today's day?
think we're not taken seriously.
Okay.
Like we're really not taken seriously, because firstly, I don't know, why do people learn from social media instead of like things that need to be learned from literature? For
Hmm.
instance, when I meet someone and they're like, oh, like, and I'm not a very activist kind, but then people are going to be like, oh, like women and their feminism, like some guy friends of mine, so difficult to find a Bumble match because everyone has feminist on the profile. And I'm like, okay, cool. So no judgment. So do you think like men and women should have equal pay? Yeah. Do you think they should have equal right? Yeah. So then you're a feminist. Where are you learning that they are activists or it's bullshit? Like
Hmm.
from Instagram, they're always bashing men. So I said, this is a literature. For 6 months, one of my core modules was sociology of women,
Hmm.
where I learned that the fact that I'm able to sit on this seat and take education today is because women before me have from burnt themselves to had rebelled. They've had extremely tough times just so I could sit here and study today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And equal pay is still, we're still far from it. So feminism is that, but on social media, people portray things differently.
Yeah.
And I would say that just kind of all the women take a hit for it, because now we are suddenly all these crazy feminist, male bashers. But I would
Absolutely.
say actually most of these Indian men are feminists, but now they're so scared to even attach themselves of that word because they don't know that that is feminism. So I would say that we're taken less seriously and all these negative connotations attached to us.
Mm-hmm. So actually, I think, the society as such has worked. I mean, I read it somewhere that it has worked hard to empower women, but somewhere
Yeah,
forgot to empower the boys, the men, because they have to be also brought on par. Like, I'll give you an instance. My e-magazine and my show, they're called the About Her show, and it's called About Her. So this is a question which comes to me very often, that about her means against him. And I say, why? I mean, why would you
yeah,
think, where does it say it is against a man? No, men and women, they coexist, and they know that
yeah,
both of them have to be there. So just because I am highlighting women and I'm talking about them doesn't mean that
yeah.
I am, downplaying men in any way. But yeah, that's the connotation which people have. And sometimes you really can't do anything about it, you know?
Yeah, because people think it's an either or situation. If one exists or if one is rising, the other can't. Whereas I think like we all rise by lifting others.
Absolutely.
And like life is not a zero-sum game that if I'm doing well, nobody else will do well in that field. There are
Correct.
so many multiple leaders. There are billionaires who are quiet, which we will never know of, and there are thousands of them, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a zero-sum game.
True, true, true. So, Niharika, what role do you think women's voices, their perspectives play in shaping individual and societal norms?
Could you just repeat that?
So, what I mean is that women's voices and perspectives. I mean, if I have a perspective and opinion about it and I voice it out, so what role can that play in shaping, say, maybe the individual or societal norms?
I think it will help other women voice out the same issue. And to be honest, I think it's already happening in this, in this mother and daughter-in-law dynamics.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
am seeing, including mine, I'm seeing a lot more mom-in-laws not just be chill,
Mm,
but not have unrealistic expectations. My mom-in-law doesn't have unrealistic expectations that she's going to wake up and do this. For
mm-hmm,
instance, when we just started talking, she was calling the fact that I could cut the call, and I know, that's not taken as an offense, which because it used to.
mm,
And I would say that's mainly because whether it's my mom or my mother-in-law, they've just had such a difficult life with their mother-in-laws that they
mm,
kind of don't want to pass that to us.
yeah,
Now, I'm sure that being said, we'll have our fair share of that things that I don't agree to and things that she doesn't agree to, just like a mom and daughter.
of course.
And then that's something that we will pass on. I just think like it's a generational thing.
Mm,
So I would say it's already happening in a lot of these dynamics that I see, even with my friends' mother-in-laws, the few of my friends who are married.
mm,
Things are a lot more easier than the stories that I have listened to growing up from my elders about the kind of life that they had.
mm, mm,
And a lot of it is because they're understanding that, working it's difficult. And
mm,
especially like when I was in the corporate sector, like at least today I'm doing the work that I enjoy, but in the corporate sector, sitting for 10 hours and only getting a 15-minute and 30-minute break,
mm,
and just that appraisal is in April, and before that, doing everything you can. It's the same level of stress a man is taking. What's the
yeah.
difference? You're both employees.
Mm,
So I think because but because they couldn't voice their opinion, but because maybe we are, and now they are, I think it's really helping. Firstly, communication is getting better. And secondly, if it's out of these dynamics, I think today women voicing their opinion is helping more women voice theirs
yeah.
and increasing awareness about the issues that we face.
True, true. I think that, like they say, charity begins at home. If we want,
Yeah.
things to change for the better for us, we have to start speaking. And once we do that, I think it will have that cascading effect. And other women, if even if they can't speak about it, at least they'll be able to relate to it. They'll understand that what they are going through is right. So, slowly and but surely, we'll get there. So I think, yes, women
Yeah.
themselves have to start. We cannot wait for others to help us out of this. We have to get
Also,
together.
sometimes others don't know that we need help.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
also the thing.
absolutely.
And that's never going to happen if you keep shut and think that they should just know. Nobody's living in your head,
Yeah.
not your partner, not even your own mother. Like there are so many things your mother just knows, but that's a different connection.
Yeah.
But otherwise, nobody will ever know what you're thinking.
Please. Nobody's a mind reader, and neither are
Yeah,
we. So
yeah.
we have to voice it, what we face and what we experience. So mental health is becoming a very big, like very big everywhere, and everybody is talking about it. But even now, do you think women's mental health issues get overlooked, or they are being addressed in the right way?
I think a lot of us are in denial, firstly. Like
Okay.
what I see is that, oh, I don't need therapy, you know.
Hmm.
And a lot of this is honestly, a lot of it is from the older generation. It's not from young millennials, it's not from Gen Zs. Gen Zs are hyper aware.
Hmm.
They they put their feelings on their sleeve. If they need help, they'll take help. If they feel something, they put it out there.
Yeah.
But I would say a lot of older people, the sandwich generation that's taking care of their parents, taking care of older kids,
Hmm.
have already like led a life which had its ups and downs. I think a lot of them need help in many ways, but they don't take it. And they're there in denial. And honestly, it also gets overlooked from us, the younger ones, whether it's our aunts or our moms, anyone. We just feel that no, like moms have to be perfect. So they cannot suffer. They will not suffer. They don't need help. They
Hmm.
know everything. So I would say it's that, but even otherwise, obviously it does get overlooked because there's this stupid superwoman analogy that I really don't resonate to. And it's just again, it's putting so much of pressure that how could you not be perfect? I'll give you one incident, and that happened with me. Like I was at fault here. I told my mom something,
Hmm.
and when I met her, I'm like, did you get it? And she's like, oh, I forgot it. But in my head, I'm like, how could you forget? I
Hmm.
mean, I can forget, my friends can forget, but you don't because moms have to be so perfect. So how could you forget?
Yeah. Yeah.
So women, yes, but I think mothers even more.
Yes. I
So
have
that's
been
just
at the
my
receiving
thing.
end, so I can so relate to that.
Yeah, because that was my reaction. I didn't say it to her because I knew that she'd feel bad. But in my head, I was like, and then later on, I thought that if I can forget, if my friends can forget, like she is also a human one, and
Yeah.
she is like literally taking care of her mother, talking to me every day, listening to me, taking care of her house, and she's a single parent. Like, why doesn't she have that freedom to forget something?
Yeah, yeah, very true, very true. It is that whole, that persona that somewhere women are also responsible for feeding it, creating it, because, I
Yeah,
come from that generation where when my kids were young, I did feel as though I had to be a superwoman, I was working, I had
yeah,
children, my husband was not around. So I had to be the perfect in everything. That's not right.
yeah.
That's not practical. And so it is unnecessary pressure on yourself. And I think before the society puts it on you, you also kind of happily, because you love that feeling of being super. I
Yeah.
don't think you can be super anything. So don't try. Yeah.
And also taking time for yourself is considered
Yeah.
selfish, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, even for a new mom, how dare you, like, the baby's crying, how dare you take her time to exercise?
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, how dare you, like, I think, somebody actually asked me that today's women get a lot of postpartum depression. I said, because they're balancing so many things.
Hmm. Hmm.
And,
Hmm.
and they're aware of it. I'm pretty sure people across generations have had postpartum depression, but now more and more people are aware that this is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it has become increasingly difficult, and it's just that you're not allowed to take time off. And again, it's just a lot of pressure from outside, from inside. And again, learn to say no
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not care that much about what people will think because people will always judge.
I
You can do really, it's like what Indra Nui, she one day reached home and she got like a big, big, big promotion. And
Yeah,
her mother still asked her that, there's no milk
yeah,
instead of congratulating her.
yeah, yeah,
But she didn't tell her husband because he looks too tired and he's a man.
yeah. I agree. I agree. So yeah, that is there. So I guess again, we are on the mend. We are making progress. We have miles
Yeah.
to go, but I think the one positive thing is that there is awareness and people are working towards it.
Also, women before us have set the standard really high. That's also a thing. Like, let's say if my mother's my age, so I'm 27, she has me at 7 years old. She had me at 20. So if there are 10 people coming home, I'm pretty sure she could make all of them all meals.
Hmm.
Whereas girls my age, I'm pretty sure we'll just like Zomato it. Who's going to cook for 10 people?
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think the bar has been so high with women behind us
Hmm.
that we'll never be half as good. And we are way too lazy to even be half as good. Like, who's going to make parathas for 10 people?
Yeah, yeah.
We're
But
not
then
going to
again,
do that.
you're doing different things. Your orientation is different. And, I think those women only raised you to be like this. They were raised to be like that, and they raised you to be like this. Because they somewhere
Probably.
felt that they lost themselves making those parathas and those meals and doing all of that. And that is why they raised you in this way, where you have an identity of your own, and making parathas is no big deal, you know?
Yeah, and also I think men have changed. Like even when I see my husband, right, like he's massively influenced by his mom and his sister. His sister's only 2 years older, and they were literally raised like twins.
Hmm.
And it's like he looks like a very typical, he's tall, he's very built, the
Hmm.
way he talks, he's obviously the definition of what manly means in all terms. Like he's very alpha that way.
Hmm.
He has no ego in picking up his plate and putting it to the kitchen. He
Hmm.
has no ego, and like he cooked pizzas for me last night. He has no ego about it.
Hmm.
And again, that's because of the women who raised him. And as a man, he wasn't, small enough to get influenced by the society that if you're a man, you can't do X, Y, Z.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's a lot of change that have come like from both the genders.
Yes, I agree. True. So, of course, you did it when you were, of course, you've just done it in your 20s, but a lot of people
Yeah.
around us, we see that they are getting into what I call midlife rebooting, wherein in
Yeah.
their late 30s, early 40s, they decide to change professions and pick up things that are diametrically opposite from what they've been doing all this while. So, what are your views on it? What do you have to say about this?
So most of my students are actually in this place. So a very typical student profile I have is something like an Asian who's been to US in a tech role, have spent 20 years working in tech, and now suddenly they're like, okay, my kid is old enough, I've done this, I need to do something else. A
Okay.
lot of my, again, even with men, a lot of my it's not just women, a lot of my students are men who want to do something else.
Hmm.
And a lot of them are in their 40s and 50s, and I think it's amazing. Like I'm seeing people do great things.
Hmm.
Even if it's something as much as coaching on
Yeah.
the side.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Like one of my students, she's actually a coach for only for women because she has been in workplace in the US. She knows how difficult it can be as a woman of color. And I
Hmm.
told her, you can talk about that, but also do you realize how many Indian girls want to do what you're doing today?
Yeah.
They also want that high paying role. They also want to make it for themselves, to escape, to just be on their feet. And you've done all that. That's another way you can help in. So I
Hmm.
would say go for it, and always know that if you are 3 steps better than anyone else, that out there is your paid product, whether it's coaching, consultation, or your PDF, like that's literally a product.
Hmm. Hmm.
So work on that.
Great. Yeah. 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 All right. So looking ahead, maybe 10 years, 15 years down the line, where do you see yourself, your personal, professional aspirations? What do you see for yourself?
It's weird because I mentioned it when we briefly spoke in the beginning
Mm.
that all my goals were such before 30 goals because as a 25-year-old I was like 30 is the age where everything ends.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't have like a 10-year or something goal, but for sure like one thing that I see life taking a turn, and I think I'm already on that path, is um I want to keep my working hours reduced how they are right now. They don't take more than 3 hours or like sometimes 2 hours. I want to keep it that way. I still want to keep prioritizing myself. And I
Mm-hmm.
want to continue doing the work that's fun for me.
Great.
So I think I'm already doing that, but I hope I continue to do that. I don't have those big goals like I want to retire or something because I really like working. I think it keeps me sane,
Mm.
and it just adds a lot of joy to my life and everything. The people that come to me, it's just all of it is such a fun process. I really enjoy it. So I hope I'm just doing the work that I like. I'm not working throughout the day. I'm working for brief hours, and I'm taking out time for myself. That's what I'd want.
Great. And I'm sure you'll continue to do it because, like you said earlier, it comes from within. And if you want something and you work towards it, why will you not get it? You will.
Yeah. And I want to educate more people about solopreneurship because I think it's so empowering. Again, especially as a woman,
Yeah.
to give you, say, if somebody is in a tier three city and they want to make it, it's a lot of big opportunities exist in the bigger cities in this country, so they don't always have the freedom to migrate. But if they're doing something from home,
Yeah.
it's more accessible, and if it doesn't take that much time, I want to educate more and more people about solopreneurship, because even with entrepreneurship, not everyone wants a startup, not everyone wants to hire and look after people full time.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to keep spreading the message about it.
That's excellent because this is something which will and can work for a lot of women because again, it is for some people it is difficult to get out. So why not? This is an option that can be explored and you're, good at it and you've made a name for yourself. So why not? They need to know about this. So
Right.
Niharika, before we end, I have just a few questions, a rapid fire round. All right.
Okay.
Just to
I'm nervous.
no, no. Just to add a little spark to our conversation. So we start?
Yeah.
Okay. So, what's your favorite productivity hack?
Putting on a timer. I use Clockify. It's free and I time everything that I'm doing. Like for work, not in life.
Yeah, yeah, great, great. I know you read a lot. So, favorite book or podcast?
So my favorite fiction book, it's not really fiction, but yeah, kind of. It's called Shantaram. My
Ah, okay.
favorite non-fiction book is called Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins.
Okay.
The podcast I'm actually listening to an audiobook
Okay.
recently, not really a podcast, because I've been listening to podcasts for such a long time, so I wanted a change.
We'll change that very soon.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So, what's been the most rewarding part of working for yourself, being on your own?
Money. I
All
love
right.
it.
Okay. Great, great, great. And what's the most challenging aspect of it?
Staying relevant.
Okay. All right. That's great. And finally, how do you unwind if you've had a long day? Because you just told me that you don't work for, that
Yeah.
number of hours, but in case you've had a long day, how do you unwind?
So if it's like not long hours, it's like those hours are still really deep hours. So it gets me mentally really exhausted, and my workout in the morning gets me physically exhausted.
Mm.
So I do read, I watch TV,
Okay.
and yeah, that's and sometimes like I just lie down and I do kind of nothing if I'm like really tired to even comprehend what's going on in the TV.
Mm-hmm.
So I do that.
All
Very
right.
simple thing. Yeah, eat food.
Okay. Okay. So great. So that was the rapid fire round, and I think you did very well on it. You were like,
Thank you.
it's coming like the pat, the reply was coming. So thank you so much, Niharika. It was indeed a pleasure having you on the show, and so many different insights. And I love talking to women from different age groups and backgrounds because I think they bring different perspectives, different viewpoints, but at the same time, they are women, and there are so many commonalities that I discover along the
Yeah.
way. So, thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you. I think like this has been my favorite part of today. It was so fun talking to you.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear
And
that.
I don't say it like in a sugar-coaty way, because I don't say things I don't mean.
Great. Well, that takes two of a kind. I'm like that too. All right. Okay.